Welcome to today's complimentary webinar, All on Board, How to Revamp Your Induction Learning, brought to you by City & Guilds Kineo. Thank you for attending. My name is Georgia Green from Kineo Pacific, and I will be your moderator for the duration of the webinar. We will be commencing shortly. And just as a reminder, if everyone could please make sure your microphones are muted to prevent external noise, that would be fantastic. It's true in learning, as anywhere else, that first impressions matter. When you're onboarding new members of your team, you need to ensure first that the learning and support experiences set the right tone. You want them to feel they've made a great decision to join your organization, and the learning experience plays a huge part in that. Over the course of the next hour, we will be presenting you with insight into what makes great onboarding work, what great induction looks and feels like, as well as looking at examples of multi-device onboarding programs that have been built on the ADAPT framework. At the conclusion of the webinar, I will give you details on how to access the slides and recording from today's presentation, as well as a number of other ways in which you can connect with Kineo. Your presenter for today's webinar is Nina Bremner, Solutions Consultant and Account Manager from the City & Guilds Kineo office in Brighton, UK. Nina works closely with clients to understand their requirements and works with the CG Kineo production team to deliver creative and effective results. Nina has worked closely with clients to deliver successful onboarding programs, including TUI Network Rail, which we will take a look at later in the presentation. So who is Kineo? We are a leading workplace learning company that helps businesses improve their performance through learning and technology. We currently have over 200 experienced staff in offices across 8 countries, supporting over 200 blue-chip clients such as Rio Tinto, Tesco, ANZ, BP, Nikon, Warner Brothers, and many more. As part of the City & Guilds Group, we can provide the full range of services to design and deliver your learning program. Our services include LMS and learning portals using Totra LMS, consulting and capability building, blended program design and development, custom, rapid, and mobile e-learning development, marketing and awareness, qualifications and accreditation services. So without further ado, I will hand over to Nina to take you through our special presentation, All on Board, How to Revamp Your Induction e-learning. And just as a reminder, if everyone could please make sure that your microphones are muted to prevent external noise, that would be fantastic. Over to you, Nina.
Thank you very much for that very good induction there, Hope everybody's well today, and thank you for taking the time to dial in and have a little bit of a session on onboarding and induction. Throughout the session we're going to take a look at some case studies and examples, but before we get there it'd be great to kind of explore around the onboarding and induction. We can look at the kind of multi-device approach to these areas, and before we go into the main case studies themselves. I want to start off by looking at onboarding and induction and separating in isolation from each other. So the first section I want to talk about is around onboarding. And we've got two really great examples of this when we do the demos. We've got the Network Rail example and we've got Barclays onboarding. In both of these instances, the onboarding modules are available via the public domain, and they can be found on the careers area of their websites. The purpose of making them available via the careers area is about being able to market the business and about setting expectation. When we talk about marketing the business, we're talking about creating a module that has an element of wow factor. It's about drawing people in and saying, this is the kind of business that we are. This is what we expect from our people, this is what we believe in, and this is the direction of which we're going in. The expectation around using it as a marketing tool is that not only would it draw people in and say, you want to come and work for us, go on, fill out the application form, but it's also about inspiring that person to say, I'm so brought into what you're saying within this module, I'm actually going to share this with other people. And in turn, we would hope that that would create a wider pool of people for you to be able to recruit from. And this has been used in this case in both Network Rail and Barclays. When we talk about setting expectation, we're talking about that when people come to your site and they look at an onboarding module that talks about who you are as a business and what you do and where you're going and all of those kind of things, you're saying this is what we expect from you as an employee. And it's almost asking the question of, do you believe we're the right business for you? And at that point, it gives the applicant the opportunity to say, you know what, I'm bought into this and I want to be a part of this journey and I'm going to apply. And in turn, you end up with an applicant who feels reassured that actually this is the right business and you know that they're potentially the right person. So it's thinking a little bit outside of capabilities, qualifications and competencies, and it's looking more at about what their objectives are, what journey do they want to go on, and also who they are as an individual, and are they going to bring the right behaviours and characteristics to your business that you need at that time. And I think that that naturally follows on to point 2 around the recruiting of the right people. The great thing about the onboarding module is that it doesn't have to be delivered in that isolated environment. You've made it publicly available by the domain and you've kind of said use this at your free will. But there are organisations who like Network Rail who then choose to deliver that as part of the conditional offer package, and it gives that applicant the opportunity to revisit all those points within the onboarding module. And you would hope that it would install a level of emotion within that applicant that says, I'm so excited about day one. I want to get there and I'm really thirsty to get going with this organisation. And it also, once again, starts to set out the expectations of what will happen from day one with this organisation. The module is also about making that person feel welcomed, motivated and once again excited about their new venture into your organisation. When we start to look at induction, it takes a slightly different spin. It becomes a well-structured programme of activities that may well happen over a month, 100 days or even a year, depending on the size of your organisation and how much you need to deliver during that time. The structured programme activities is about helping the new person to understand their role, the technology, your policies, your product and more. You need them to hit the ground running as quickly as possible, and giving your new employee the tools to enable rapid induction into the business will aid this for you. And I think this naturally leads on to point 2, which is around alleviating time pressures from managers. We all know how precious time is and how much we have to juggle in a day. We need our managers to be managing and providing a mentor role and not being bogged down in the detail of training the smaller components as part of the business. And we believe that the right programme delivered in the right way should build confidence and compliance within your new starters. As part of this programme, we believe it's about enabling independence, capability and confidence. The function of any training programme is to enable a workforce to solve problems, feel independent, capable and build confidence for them to tackle the task at hand, and the induction should be treated no differently to that. We also need our staff to be compliant, and within this induction programme you build in your compliance programmes. Every role will have a different level of responsibility around how they need to be compliant, and they'll be assessed accordingly. But it's about tailoring this induction programme to be specific to them and their role so that they learn what they need to know at the time of which they need to know it. The induction programme is also about creating the best in breed and enabling you to keep that best in breed. The new person needs to believe that they've made the right decision to join your company and that you are invested in helping them to be the best in breed not only for themselves but also you as a business. Recruiting can be costly, and it has been said that losing an employee in the first 12 months can cost organisations as much as 3 times a person's salary. And that cost is embedded in things like the recruitment process, training the individual during their induction period and onboarding, equipment and any benefits that you would have paid during that time. And as such, getting it right is vital to not only the more tangible measurements such as the financial output, but also the emotional. We have to think about that the retention of a person is great marketing for you as your business, it financially makes sense, but also it's brilliant for the morale of the staff that are left behind. CG Kineo have a large broad range of induction and onboarding experience, and I've flashed up just a couple of examples of them there in front of you, and we'll start to explore those a little bit more within the next section. So we've talked a little bit about the differences of onboarding and induction and the importance of that as a business, but let's take a little bit of a look at what makes a great onboarding and induction, and here are some 6 very simple steps. First of all, it's about doing it early and often, so campaign for change. And when you look at the onboarding, you're saying it's out there in the public domain, potentially, if that's something that suits you and your organisation, or it's just available as part of the conditional offer, or it's there in small sections on the first day of which you arrive within your business. Starting a new organisation can be hugely overwhelming, and there's a huge amount of information that you also need to take in. So the concept of drip feeding, subliminal messaging and important information via the campaign of change becomes very beneficial. Get emotional. It's okay to be a bit emotional about your business. Allow them to feel your passion so that when they turn up on day 1 or throughout the remaining period of their induction and employment, they feel thrilled that they're there with you and part of your organisation and your future. Give it brand and personality. As much as you're looking at first impressions for that new starter, they need to have great first impressions about you. So it's about it being on brand, and it's about it having stacks of personality that says, you now understand who we are as a business. Make it flexible and modular using short resources. I'm sure many of you have heard a lot about it's all about the resources and not the courses, and this is really no different. It's about making things quick, easy, palatable and easy for people to adopt at that moment in time. The benefits of making it flexible and modular also enables you to create the tailored induction that I mentioned, so it's about the induction being very relevant to that individual and what they need to know, but also it enables your different learner types to learn at a rate that's compatible for them. So for those that are reflectors, a nice set of short resources means that they can read something and come back to it at any point after they've had a period of reflection. For your activists in the organisation, they will love the fact that they don't need to read any of it until the moment in time when they really feel they need a bit of help. Make it multi-channel and blended. As I'm sure you're all aware, we all like a bit of variety in life, and making it multi-channel and blended will not only reach out to your different learner types, but it will bring a level of variety and restrict the amount of boredom that's created through such a long program. Make it available everywhere. It's got to be multiple device, and part of the reason for that is because this is now the way of which people are learning. The way people are learning now brings it in via people who have their own devices, learning from home and so forth, and we can talk a little bit about more what that looks like on the next slide. I'm sure that many of you, or yourselves, will know people that work in organisations that are large, global and complex. Time is more precious, and not everybody now sits in front of a desktop. And so has come the birth of Bring Your Own Device to Work, people who are distributed mobile devices via the organisation, learning from home, and any other means of which somebody would like to learn. Especially with onboarding, your new starters are often the most excitable and hungry within your organisation, and you need to harness that energy and excitement by making the induction relevant and accessible across all of those relevant devices. So we asked the question, how do we handle this? Do we need to create a different version for each different device? And the simple answer to that is no. And we believe that there's a better way. There are tools out there, and the one that we have developed ourselves and use the most is Adapt, that's all about multiple device delivery. So it's not about saying this is what you have for your mobile, and then we're going to create something else for your desktop, and then we're going to create something else again for your tablet. This is about saying we have a one-stop solution that enables us to create the content once in a single solution that will play well across multiple devices. And we'll show you an example of this in both the Network Rail and the TUI examples that we're going to share. And the benefit of this is that it reaches out to your new joiners regardless of where they're learning and their device, assuming that you're willing to open up your LMS to enable that. It creates a single version over multiple devices, which from both a development and a maintenance perspective makes it considerably cheaper. Short resources, so you can have a linear style learning approach at desktop level or laptop. But once you get down to the mobile, it could just be a set of tangible short resources that you need for point-in-time learning. It's flexible in its design by taking that multiple device approach, by enabling a more scrolling, which is compatible with both mobile devices and desktops. It's trackable via the LMS. If it's with onboarding, you may well have it on your LMS and on a website, and that's absolutely possible in both scenarios. And if you wanted to adopt something like the Adapt tool to build this content in, then it's open source and there's no license fee. So it enables you to create this multi-device world at very little cost. So let's see it in action, but before I do, would anybody like to ask me any questions? There is silence in the room, so I shall continue. So let's see it in action. I want to talk to you a little bit about Network Rail. For those of you who are not UK based and are on the webinar, Network Rail is part government, private organisation based here in the UK, and they are solely responsible for all of the UK network of which our trains run on, and a number of the stations as well that reside as part of that. They are the largest landowner in the UK. And they've been around for many hundreds of years. They needed an onboarding piece that was going to target people before they came into the organisation. And there were a couple of things that drove this change for them. One was that they were relocating to a new national centre within the UK. This meant that some people weren't going to be moving to this new national centre, and it also meant that they needed new staff in new areas. So it created a large recruitment drive for them. There was also some questions around how induction was managed and who would own it, and this was an opportunity to start that new thinking. When Network Rail started on this, they hired an organisation that went out and surveyed new starters, and they surveyed 824 new starters across the Network Rail organisation. And the feedback was that 66% said the overall recruitment experience was excellent to good, and 71.5% that said the same about their induction process. The things that were important to them were about choosing the right solution. A national organisation with a very diverse workforce that ranges from engineers right through to senior management. There needed to be a consistent message regardless of who and where you were arriving within the business. The solution needed to be engaging, and it needed to be able to reach out to people before their first day. There were some challenges around the subject matter, And the challenges were about they're incredibly proud of their heritage, and it's a very long heritage. But it was about selecting the key moments in that heritage that would be important to people now and would be representative of the business moving forward. And it was about providing the right information for such a diverse audience, so no section of the audience felt as if they had been excluded from this content. So let's give you a little bit of a demo into the content itself. So the Network Rail module has been built in the Adapt tool that I mentioned just a moment ago. This particular one works on the principle of a downward scrolling motion, which makes it very compatible for you to scroll on your mobile phone or your tablet. There are several sections within here. There's a kind of simple did you know facts, and then you've got your various topics. Each topic has some kind of motion attached to it, so you can see the train coming in. If we shrink that back down into mobile level, you can see that it takes away the interactive menu and it replaces it with something that's a lot more simplistic and palatable for when you're looking at it on an alternative device to that of a desktop or a laptop. When we click into the modules, we are then provided with an alternative scrolling screen. And sorry, I'm just going to refresh the screen. Apologies about that. Oh, sorry, I've just been kicked out. Bear with me. Do apologise about that. Let's start that one again. Sorry, we seem to have, whilst it's playing in the webinar, it seems to be a bit of a there we go, that's better. So as we come into the topic, we've got the banner at the top that represents the area of the menu that you're working within, and then there's a number of standard sort of e-learning components. We have a narrator here, we have an image and a set of text to the right-hand side that's relevant to the image that you're looking at. And they, within their topic, have covered everything from who we used to be, so their heritage and what their heritage means to them and how that's led them to where they are. They talk about where they are now. They talk about what kind of organisation they are to work for and what the journey is that you're about to go through with them. They also talk about some of their ethics, so what they believe in as a business and what they expect of you, and that covers everything down to high-level aspects about their drinking and drugs policies right through to the behavioural side of the business. They have a large behavioural change program taking place at the moment, and it's about positioning them and their staff as a business for who they want to be long-term as a business. So having that behavioural expectation set within the module was very important. As we start to come down, we have various other components within here. So we can talk about the fact that they expect you to be customer-driven, accountable, challenging, and collaborative. And we have these little interactive bobbing bits that you can see. This was all about being able to highlight things that were critical for people to read. And we can just click a next button and it will then move us on to the next topic. The Network Rail onboarding is part of a much wider induction program. Their induction program is approximately 100 days long. We're not involved in that. That's something that they're doing on their own, but this is the very starting point of that journey for their new starters. Since they've released this demo, they've recently surveyed 50 new starters who have said that 95% have said that they would have liked to have had the onboarding module before they started, and that they are seeing a significant increase in people feeling like they get everything they need out of that induction process. Is there anything anybody would like to ask around Network Rail? Okay, so I'm going to move you on and show you Barclays onboarding. Very similar principle. This is a module that was made available via the public domain. You've got the little mole here that's a timer, and that would move you on to a video. And the video welcomes you into Barclays, says, hello, congratulations, you're now part of Barclays, and this is everything you need to know about us. And what we've created is this kind of exploratory building which covers off their 4 C's. So they're all about their customers, your colleagues, who they are as a company, and their involvement in citizenship. When we enter into a particular floor, it will provide us with this exploratory room. There's various sound effects within it, and each of these are clickable objects of which we'll interact and show you a little bit more. So same again, we talked about wow factor with onboarding, we talked about it being fun, engaging, on brand, good use of language, and a real insight to who you are as a business. There's a little bit of video about understanding who the Barclays customer base is, and there are short little quizzes throughout the module, so find the facts, that tell you a little bit about what the percentage of Barclays customers were surveyed in February 2012. You select you can, click go, and what do you know, we got it right. And then you can move on to the next one. Although this is an exploratory environment, to be sure that we encouraged everybody to cover everything off within the topics, each floor has an area, a sort of gramophone at the end, which is locked away and is only opened once you've completed all the other objects. So you don't have to take a linear approach, but you need to unlock that final object in order to complete that floor. So similar to Network Rail, slightly different approach, scrolling sideways rather than downwards, and once again was released out into the public domain. Are there any questions you would like to ask about Barclays? Okay, so moving back to the presentation, so we've talked a little bit about Network Rail and Barclays, and we're going to move you on from rail to air into sea, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about TUI Travel. So TUI Travel was a big induction program for us. There's approximately 14 hours worth of content in total for the whole program. The content ranges from induction through to compliance through to product-based learning. It was being distributed out to the retail side of the business, and they created a kind of campaign called Addicted to Learning. So it was all about getting people engaged about learning, self-motivated, but most importantly it was about giving them great knowledge and great confidence. Abigail Pugh, who is a member, a key stakeholder at giving their staff bags of confidence, and it all stems from the fact that the public have become more knowledgeable. You've got all your sites out there, whether it's Lonely Planet, TripAdvisor, or just Google in its own right, which give you so much knowledge about the destination, and their customers are coming in quite knowledgeable, which means their staff need to be even more knowledgeable. And it's about TUI Travel being the best in breed of travel places for you to go to and get the advice, get the great service, and get the great holiday that comes with it. As part of this, they've created various modules, and I will take you through some of those now. So this is a little induction piece. It's quite fun, it's quite light-hearted, and it's very short. You have the option to kind of sort of come in here and select, create your own avatar, which will support you as you go through the relevant course. You can randomize it as well. Sorry, I've got some very strange things going on in the webinar today. Let me just refresh that. There we go. We can then come into the particular topic itself, and I'll give you an example of where the avatar follows you through. So your very first one's kind of, hey, welcome to the TUI group, congratulations, you're now part of the business. Let me teach you a little bit about TUI as a business. And as we click down, our avatar will follow us down, and it will tell you a little bit about all the great brands that reside within TUI Travel. And we can come down and we can learn a little bit about who they are and what they're trying to offer to their business. And then they talk a little bit about the holiday experiences that they offer. important about knowledge and how important that is, how it creates a competitive edge and a personalised service to them, and this is all around the kind of the Rubik's Cubes are all about the Addicted to Learning brand. And they did this really amazing thing with the Rubik's Cube where they created a learning campaign using it. And the Rubik's Cube was actually distributed out into the business, and people were encouraged to send pictures in of them and their Rubik's Cube. And that was everything from pilots who had taken it into the cockpit. There was somebody in New York with the naked cowboy. He had a guitar in front of him, but he was there with his Rubik's Cube, and these were all sent in to encourage people to be a part of the movement about being addicted to learning and being self-motivated to learn and the benefits that brings to you and them as a business. And we can just sort of finish off this module at the bottom, and it then kind of says there are many opportunities within TUI, let us tell you something about those. And then as you start to sort of explore further topics within it, you can learn about sightseeing tour of TUI as a business. You can learn a little bit about their customers and making dreams come true. World of opportunity for you, so that's all about your benefits, how you can learn, how you can grow throughout the business, etc. So this is a really nice module from an induction, very much onboarding based again, but it's then swiftly followed by a number of product and compliance based topics. So I'm just going to show you this one as an example. This is one of the products modules, destinations. It's all about teaching people within the retail unit about the particular locations, what those locations have to offer. So you come into the section of the world map, so we've got Italy, Croatia, Montenegro and Malta. That then takes you into the region and you can select a particular destination. And then it follows a very similar format for all of them, where you then get to come into the destination and it tells you that it's really great for honeymooners, sightseers and beach lovers. A little bit of facts around Venice, things you need to know about the weather, a video that introduces you to that particular area, getting around, so they kind of advise that bikes are a great way to get around, about the beaches, and then the highlights for that area. So the highlights are the various beaches that are available to you and also the sightseeing that you can do. As we come down, you've got top excursions and you can scroll through those excursions. And then you can come down and you've got a top tips area if you're a late starter or you like cocktail hour. And then there are further links out to other modules. Once again, this was about being multi-device. It was about enabling people to learn on their own devices, within the stores, on their desktops, etc. If we shrink it down, we can then see that it moves very well into mobile format. And the thing that was really interesting about this particular topic was that it was designed to be product knowledge as part of the induction process for the TUI travel retail guys or distribution. And actually they were so comfortable with the quality of the content and the design and the delivery that what they found was that people within the retail stores were actually turning their tablets around and using it to guide the customer through that particular location. So it shows that not only when do you get the content right for the person, but if you get the design and the approach right, it could be multifaceted. And we've had something very similar with Nikon as well, where we've built content for Nikon, which is designed for the guys to actually be able to use it in front of the customers, so they don't have to have all the knowledge that they need up front, and they can kind of learn a little bit more on the fly. So that gives you a little bit more of an insight into the TUI travel induction. A couple of things that were really important to them around the online learning strategy for this was it was very important that it was providing a consistent and quality training approach across the business. It was about engaging staff and leaving them wanting to learn more. It was about giving their advisor bags of confidence so they can talk to customers with passion and expertise, and in their words, becoming better than Google. And it allowed the learners to access all of that induction content, so all 14 hours of it, across multiple devices, so it didn't matter where people were or what they were doing or whether they were in front of the customer, they were able to learn from that content at that moment in time. Is there anything else you would like to ask me at all around the TUI induction program? Okay.
Sorry, Nina.
Oh, is that somebody about to...
Yep.
Yes.
Sorry, it's Georgia. We have a couple questions coming through. The first one is from Glenn, and he wants to know, apart from quizzes, do any of these programs have challenges for the users?
These particular ones are actually mainly just quizzes. So the TUI ones have kind of quizzes that are at both destination and region level. We saw the ones with the Barclays Onboarding. There aren't really that many with the Network Rail one, but we do have examples in other areas. So we've done kind of sales-based challenges as part of an induction, and those sales modules are actually about putting them into an immersive environment with the customer, and the customer is kind of asking, okay, I want to buy a particular product, this is my question, and then you're given the opportunity to respond to that question, and those scenarios are branched as well, so you could make bad decisions that then see the customer walk out the shop, or you could see them make great decisions which then see them sell the product. And we've done that with many aspects. We've done it with social media as part of the induction as well, so more compliance-based stuff, where we've given them dilemmas, and it's about how they would approach those dilemmas and how accurate they are in the dilemma front. Does that answer the question okay?
Yeah, but I think Glenn would be satisfied with that answer. We have a couple other questions coming through. One from, let me see here. One from Gianarlo. He asks, do you help with the design of the module, or is it the client himself responsible to find someone to do the design, etc.?
No, we absolutely are part of that. So the process of working with us starts with a design phase. So more often than not, a customer will have done a certain amount of work to identify not what the design is or what the script is, but what they want in their module or in their program. So they may well come to us. It could be that actually there's a lot of it and you need help drilling it down. So if we use Network Rail as an example, we didn't get involved with the induction program, but what we did help them do is we said, right, bring everything along that you think should be in your induction. And we did some workshops with them where we kind of said, right, we put some flip charts on the wall, we broke it down into kind of online, offline, work-based mentoring, etc. We got people to put all their content out on the table and put the headings of those content onto flip charts, onto post-it notes, and then when we put the post-it notes up onto the board into the relevant delivery approach, and then that helped them to identify how they were going to deliver it. We then supported them in, actually we did this with TUI Travel as well, so we then start to work with them on the audience. So we go, right, who's your audience going to be, what kind of people are they, and we start to build personas around those people, and we get to identify within those personas what kind of learner type they are likely to be. So are we targeting a group that are probably going to be quite analytical, is it really broad range, etc. Out the back of that, that should help you to structure your mass of content that you may well have in place. If you don't have any content at all, then of course we'll start right at the beginning with you, but we generally find people have a load of stuff that they think should be in it. Moving on from that stage, we would then take you into the design part, which is where we start to take that content and break it down and say, right, what of this do you really want in your online content, and which of it don't. and then we start to design it and build scripts for you and everything else. So it's highly collaborative, but you're never on your own at any point. And it is about just talking to you to find out where you are at the moment. It might be that we do a couple of days work for you and then we set you off on a task that might take a week or a month or 2 months, and then you come back and then we work with you a bit more and we might have to send you off again, or you might come back that time and have everything you need to move you forward. So absolutely, wherever you are, we will help you get to where you need to be.
Perfect. We have one more question from Amelia, and she wants to know, do any of these companies that you've mentioned have a physical onboarding process as well as the digital ones, or do they not find a need for it?
They absolutely do have a physical onboarding. So all of these digital bits that you're seeing are part of a wider blended program. So in Network Rail instance, that single onboarding piece forms a part of their formal recruitment process. So as part of their you applying as an applicant and then going through the conditional offer phase, and I think you're able to re-access it from day one as well as part of the induction, and then they have a blended program which then takes their new starters through a 100-day induction program. TUI Travel is exactly the same, so there's 14 hours of online content for the distribution and retail group. However, that is only a fraction of the overall delivery, and they have dedicated sessions of which people can go to, and they do various face-to-face activities. I think in both cases as well they do a day. I know Network Rail do, and part of the challenge they had was that the volume, if there was a peak in new starters, it could actually be several months before you actually get your onboarding day, which sort of defeats the object that really you should be getting it on day one. So part of the e-learning tool wasn't to replace that, but was to make sure that the essential messages were pulled out up front, and then if there was a delay in you having your onboarding day, then you weren't at a loss at day one. So absolutely, there are physical processes in place. Managed by the learning management system, so some of them are using programs or learning plans within the learning management system, which are then a hybrid of collaboration, face-to-face webinars, or just going and seeing someone. So it might just tell you that you need to go to HR and complete a particular form, or it might actually be you need to turn up for this 2-day compliance course, etc.
Perfect. And just one more question for you. Chris has asked, can you make these onboarding module changes easily in the ADAPT framework? Can the staff actually do it themselves once you've handed it over, or is it something ongoing with Kineo?
No, absolutely. You can do a certain amount of stuff yourself. So if you 100% want it built in ADAPT, present state of play with ADAPT is that it's open source, you can download it yourself, but you will need a certain amount of technical capability at the moment to be able to restructure the course or deconstruct it. What you can do with what we would classify sort of end-user knowledge is that you can go in and make text changes, and you can translate yourself, and you can make small image changes, but you can't deconstruct the course at the moment. We're in the process of building an authoring tool for ADAPT. We are driving to have that released this year, and that would then enable you to build your own content without needing to be technically minded, and it would enable you to deconstruct courses that we build for you, so you're not just limited to text and image edits. You would actually be able to do a complete break it down and rebuild it if you wanted to. If, however, that doesn't suit your needs, from a CG Kineo perspective, we're tool neutral. So for those customers who have a preference towards a particular tool, like Storyline or Articulate, or Captivate, then we can build in those. So that's absolutely no problem at all.
Perfect. Those are all the questions that we have for now. Back to you, Nina.
Okay, I just wanted to flash up the Goman Thistle induction. the kind of examples that we've shown you to date have been relatively large organisations, and they've spent quite a substantial amount of money achieving what they want to achieve. So the sort of Barclays onboarding piece, there's a very large video at the front, which is sort of around about £40,000, and so you're talking, I don't know, US Australian dollars, you're probably talking in the region of sort of $60,000. And then the remaining tutorial part of Barclays is the equivalent money again. The TUI sort of induction and destination pieces, as individual components, they're very cheap. You're talking literally sort of a few £1,000s per topic. They're not really over 5 minutes long, each of them. The overall 14 hours of programme is around about £360,000 for all 14 hours. So I think there's a kind of point of which you say, okay, what size is your organisation? Is it cost effective for it all to be digital? And in some instances it won't be. And I think it's also about recognising what bits need to be glossy and which bits don't. There's a real pro to putting a bit of wow factor into the onboarding bit, because that's the bit that potentially entices people into your organisation. But there are great things like interactive PDFs, which are really cheap to make, but they're perfect for a lot of the stuff that you may well want in your induction program. And if you've already got some of the stuff in Word documents, it's a matter of us taking those Word documents, potentially re-scripting them to make them a bit more engaging, applying some beautiful art direction to them, and just then PDFing it into an interactive PDF, which just sort of makes it easier for people to move through and find the areas that they want and navigate, etc. So that there are some considerations in there that not everything has to be wow, and it's about saying this is what we've got and this is where our audience is, and finding an organisation, you know, like CG Kineo or CG Kineo, where we can then say, right, for your money and your size of organisation, this is kind of what you should be looking at. So it's about taking a very pragmatic approach in what you need. Now, the interesting thing with the Goman Thistle one, which you've got in front of you, this is actually a Flash product, but there's absolutely no reason why it couldn't be built in HTML, so don't let that put you off. And HTML meaning that it could be multiple device. We could create something very similar in the ADAPT program. The nice thing about the Goman Thistle is the fact that I think it targets people who don't have really big induction programs. It's short, it's light, and it's straight to the point. And for some organisations, that's all you need. It's a kind of, it's not a PDF, it's a Flash module, but it's a kind of interactive magazine. You've got some audio here from one of your key stakeholders, which I believe she's head of HR. A little bit about where you are, you know, what's going to happen within this particular topic. Really beautiful art direction, which is not expensive, because essentially they're just their own images from their own image bank. Video here about Goman Thistle as a brand. Get to learn a little bit about where they are, and you can click into each of those, learn about that particular hotel and destination. So you've got a nice little interactive map there. What they've then done is just embedded a couple of short modules then within the e-magazine, and you can then come into here and learn a little bit more in a bit more detail. So this is about the past, the present and the future, and you've got your timeline here, which talks you through the journey that Goman Thistle have been on. And then you get a couple of sort of interactive questions as you go through. And the same with the other module, you've got a separate module there. And then you come to the end, you've got a kind of crossword here, which tests everything you've learned within the modules. And then just a very simple what happens next. So you're a manager, click here and it takes you through to a sort of webinar website, intranet site that tells you what you need to do next. And then you, as a new starter, what needs to happen. So then a kind of call to action at the very end. It's light, simple, straight to the point, beautifully art directed, and I think very relevant for the more kind of small to medium-sized businesses who perhaps don't need a very intensively long program like the Network Rail and the TUI one. Any questions you would like to ask around the Goman Thistle?
We don't have any questions about this particular program, but Kathy just wants to know, how does ADAPT compare with Articulate Storyline? And so why would I choose one over the other?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Very different tools really in their function. So Storyline basically does Flash and HTML. You can create the course once and then you can publish it to either format. So you have got that concept of multiple device of sorts because you can publish it in a format that then makes it mobile or tablet friendly. However, what Storyline doesn't do is that it publishes it in HTML, but it's not responsively designed. So if we go back to the TUI modules, this is the view that you would have if you were on a tablet, or if you on a decent sized tablet. I'm kind of talking maybe sort of 9 inches upwards. Or sorry, 7 inches upwards, you would be looking at this kind of view. But if you then kind of went and looked on it on a smaller tablet or a mobile phone, you would be looking at this view instead. Storyline doesn't do that, so it will basically only provide you with a single view regardless of what object you are playing it on, and so there needs to be a certain amount of scaling that then happens when you go down onto the really small devices. The other thing being is that, which is a kind of a pro or a con depending on how you look at it, that the Storyline's driven via its own app, kind of thing, which is generally quite a good app. The ADAPT one doesn't have its own app. It's driven solely by the learning management system, so you're not kind of accessing it from two separate areas. You can, providing your LMS is accessible via those devices, the content will just launch as it normally does. It will acknowledge that it's a much smaller screen, and that will be that. The other point around the responsive design, it's not just about reshuffling the content to make it more desirable device. It's also about identifying what you want to use the mobile device for. So when you use Storyline, you're creating a course and you're choosing the format of which you want to publish it in, but then that's it. If you then decided that actually what you want is a linear course for people who are on desktops and laptops, but you want more of a toolkit for those that are using it on mobile phones, you would have to build a separate version in Storyline. So you then have your desktop and laptop version and you have your mobile version. With the ADAPT framework, you can essentially build a linear course and a toolkit all into one course. So you don't have to go and build it separately. You build it in one course, and it just acknowledges that the moment you view it on a mobile phone, it needs to present it as a toolkit and not as a linear course. So it makes it easier to maintain because you've only ever got one file. So if you want to go and make a text change to something, you can just go and make it in the one file, republish it, put it back on your learning management system or intranet page, and Bob's your uncle, it's all there. Whereas with the Storyline, you'd have to go to your desktop version and then you'd have to go and make your amendment again within the mobile version. And probably one other point around that also is the fact that the advantage with Storyline at the moment is the fact that it is a full authoring tool, and you only need a kind of ceiling of capability to use it. ADAPT, until we bring the authoring tool out this year, it does require some technical capability to use it. It's what we classify as a framework, so it's something that you can code within, and there's a sort of a number of components that you can draw down from a menu, but it's not as user-friendly as Storyline. But once it's got its authoring tool, it would, and I'm not just saying this because I work for CG Kineo, but I would say it would be a very strong contender over Storyline on those bases.
Perfect. Kathy says, great explanation, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
I don't believe so. Not at the moment.
Okay. So I think really we're just at the point of being able to kind of reflect and summarise on what we've talked about. The key things is recognizing who your audience are, If you've got a very broad range of audience, thinking about the subject matter and the language that will reach across all of those, it's about making it bite-sized so that you can tailor the journey to each of your different audience types, so that people only ever get put through content that is directly relevant to their role. If you're going with onboarding, put a little bit of extra money into it, apply a bit of wow factor like you saw with the Barclays onboarding piece, and get it out into the public domain. Use it as a marketing piece, use it as a means of drawing people in, but also use it as a means of setting expectation around what you expect from a person. Within CG Kineo, you occasionally would hear people band around they're a good Kineo person, and I think a lot of organisations sort of have a vision of sort of what their a good person is for them, and that's not about being closed-minded or biased. It's about sort of making sure that there's a good set of behaviours or personality traits that you feel really will help you drive your business forward. And I think that's what your onboarding piece is about. It's about good marketing, it's about setting expectations, and it's about emotion. It's about drawing people into your business and getting them really excited about the fact that they're going to be working for an equally exciting organisation. Your induction, as I mentioned, is all about short, sharp, to the point, highly tailored, and it being a toolkit that people can use at any time, so they can go through it as a structured program, but it's designed in a way that makes it very easy for people to draw on what they need when they need it. And I think that's it. So thank you very much for enduring my voice for the last 50 minutes. And if you have any more questions, by all means you are willing to, ask me. But if not, there's details up on the screen, and you can harass myself if you wish to ask me offline at a later date.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nina. I really appreciate it, and it was a very insightful presentation. Okay. And thank you to all of our attendees for staying late or watching early in the morning. I know we've had a vast array of people from all over the world listening in today, so it was really exciting. Thank you so much. Just as a reminder, I will be sending out an email tomorrow with the webinar recording and slides so that all of you can view it at your leisure. We've had a lot of inquiries as to the links to, I believe it was the TUI program, since it was on public domain, so I'm going to see what I can do about that, and I'm going to try and get that in the email as well.
Okay.
Perfect. And to all of our attendees who are still watching, if you'd like to gain access to our showcase and experience some more of our work, some of which Nina has shown you today, feel free to email your local rep. So we have Zach Harvey in Australia, Nolan Smith in New Zealand, and Nina's email is up there as well. We're also very active on social media across our different offices. Feel free to join our LinkedIn eLearning Professionals group. We're always bringing up hot topics, so it's great to see you involved. And really, that's it from us. Thank you again. Have a great evening for everyone in the Pacific region, and enjoy your day, everyone else in the rest of the world.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thanks, Nina.